All right. Welcome everyone to our program today, our Piedmont Community Pool Town Hall. My name is Laurel Plimier and I am the president of the League of Women Voters of Piedmont. And I hope that some of you had the chance to attend one of the open houses on the community pool at the Veterans Hall on Tuesday. There was a lot of great information there. We're now in the short period of time where you all as community members are able to engage with the design team and the project managers for the community pool project. And the League is very happy to host this town hall tonight as another avenue for that community engagement. As always, I want to thank you all for taking some time out of your day to spend with us on Zoom and YouTube and to learn a little bit about this pool project and ask questions that are important to you. So before I get to the introduction of our speakers, I wanted to go over a few logistics. So if you are on the Zoom call with us, please remain muted for the duration of the event. This helps minimize background noise and it prevents your video from popping up unintentionally on our live stream. You can post your questions about the pool for our panel now or at any time during the presentation, and you can do that either in the Zoom chat or in the comments on the YouTube live stream. And I'll ask as many of them as I can during the last half hour of the program. If you are joining us on YouTube or watching the recording of this session on YouTube, please consider subscribing to our channel. And if you click the bell, you'll get notifications of future live stream events. And for advance notice of future events, you can also join our mailing list, which you can do on our website, and that's lwvpiedmont.org. And while you are there, you can also become a member of the League. Your dues alone support the grassroots efforts of the League, both locally and at the state and national levels. And the League's efforts in voter education and advocacy are extremely important work, and we greatly appreciate your support. So we have 3 speakers with us today, but before I introduce them, I want to introduce our Mayor Teddy King, and I'm hoping she is here because she was stuck in traffic. I'm not sure she is. She is, yes, I see her, she's just joining. Okay, so Teddy is the mayor. Mayor King has had over a decade of service to the city of Piedmont, as well as extensive government and public policy experience, both in DC and San Francisco. Her areas of expertise include energy, transportation, and infrastructure, housing, and environmental sustainability. And she is going to share a few words with us.
Thank you so much, everyone. What a great and well-attended group we have. That is a testament to the League of Women Voters for your amazing outreach. Thank you, Laurel and Jennifer, for putting this together. I just want to say I'm really here to welcome everyone. We are at the point of really jumping off and diving into the pool feet first on moving this project forward. I'm going to just give a brief comment about where the city of Piedmont is in pursuit of this project to develop our new aquatic center. First of all, first and foremost, thank you to the voters of Piedmont for putting your trust in the city that we can build this amazing infrastructure project. The voters passed UU, which was no easy feat in the middle of a pandemic. We're moving forward to get these bonds out on the market. And the big news of today is that, the city of Piedmont's never issued general obligation bonds before, so we didn't have a credit rating, which is pretty amazing to think about, right? And so just today, we were granted AAA credit. We have a AAA credit rating, which is extraordinary, and that's going to result in tremendous savings for our city as we pursue this project. So I think all of us are equally committed to a great process, an open and transparent process, a great facility that is on the cutting edge of environmental responsibility. We have many very experienced financial minds looking at how the bond issuance will occur and what the ongoing fiscal impacts are going to be, not just to build the pool, but keeping in mind that we need to stay within our budget for the annual operating costs of our new pool. And most of all, this is going to be a facility that serves everyone. This is going to serve the elderly. It's going to serve kids. It's going to serve our swim team, our water polo team, lap swimmers, folks who want to do aqua aerobics. It's going to materially improve our quality of life here in town, and I just can't wait to bring it online. So I will say, I'm going to hand it over to Laurel, but we do have a dream team. I mean, what city can boast one of the world's most esteemed pool architects as our neighbor, Clarence Mamuyac, who is, just a few blocks away, and I walk by his house on my dog walks all the time. He builds world-class pools all the time, every day of the week. You look at his CV and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe he's pulled this off. So with Clarence, George is a seasoned hand, experienced architect, and of course our own rock star city manager who has a long resume in recreation as well as city management. I think that we have a lot of talent at the table, and I'm really thrilled that I have the opportunity to work with such amazing people. And I also want to give a final shout out to Steve Rowland, our former member of our Recreation Commission and the head of our Pool Advisory Committee, for working really diligently on top of everything else that he manages to help keep us on track for this terrific opportunity. So with that, I will hand it over to our League of Women Voter colleagues, and you could provide any formal introductions.
Thank you so much, Mayor King. I appreciate your taking the time to give a little introduction for us. We have three speakers with us today who are all involved with the Community Pool Project. Sara Lillevand is our city administrator for the city of Piedmont, and she has been in that position since 2019. Prior to that, she served as the city's director of recreation. And she also grew up in Piedmont and returned here in the early 2000s to raise her own family. Clarence Mamuyac is the president and CEO for ELS Architecture and Urban Design. They're the design firm that was selected for the Piedmont Community Pool Project. His firm specializes in sports and recreational facilities, and he has designed, as Mayor King mentioned, a number of aquatics centers in the Bay Area. George Sanen is the project manager for our new community pool. He brings over 40 years of professional experience in program management of multi-million-dollar projects throughout the United States and internationally. So we will get started with Sara.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for your opening remarks, and thank you, Laurel and the League of Women Voters of Piedmont for hosting today's event. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And I can say, I'll echo some of Mayor King's enthusiasm unequivocally that I'm excited to be here and thrilled that this community pool project is happening. I know there's a lot of interest in the details and timelines of how we get from here to the opening of the new facility. But before George and Clarence dig into those details, I would just like to make a few high-level comments about how we arrived at this moment. So to say that our existing and now closed community pool outlived its useful life is an understatement. Thanks to the diligence of city staff for the past decade and the Piedmont Swim Club before them, every ounce of aquatic life was squeezed from the facility that was built in 1964. Thanks to multiple studies and community efforts dating back more than 20 years, the need for a new and better aquatic facility has been well documented and generally agreed upon. The single and seemingly insurmountable obstacle has been how to pay for it. And thanks to the courage of the city council to put Measure UU on the ballot, and then the trust and generosity of the voters who passed Measure UU, we are going to build a new community pool. And it's going to be wonderful. It's going to be a fantastic community amenity and asset in the heart of Piedmont. And I think I just need to say that one more time because it is so exciting to be at this stage. After many years of discussion, it is actually happening. We are building a new community pool. Much of the work of the past 11 months since the election results were certified has been about assembling the best team possible, as Mayor King referenced, to deliver this aquatic facility to meet the needs and expectations of the community. And I believe we've done that through a very thoughtful RFP processes, resulting in the engagement of absolutely outstanding partners in this effort, Griffin Structures as project and ELS as the design team. And that augments our highly capable internal staff team, including Director of Public Works, Daniel Gonzalez, Recreation Director, Shelley Putzer, Director of Planning and Building, Kevin Jackson, Finance Director, Mike Scheck. All of our eyes, ears are on this project daily. And then on top of that, we were able to hire former Piedmont City Administrator Paul Benoit as a special assistant to help lead this project. I can't imagine a stronger team to tackle this exciting effort. So the how and the when of the design and the construction process is really the focus of our presentation today. So without further ado, I'll turn the presentation over to Project Manager George Sanen of Griffin Structures. George.
Thank you very much, Sara. Madam Mayor, thank you everyone. Laurel, we are very pleased to be here and thank you for inviting us to make a presentation to your organization. We at Griffin are very grateful and happy, obviously, to have been selected back in the month of May of this year by the city to lead the process for the creation of this project from inception to completion. We will work as owners, representatives, and will be in charge of the program management, as well as assisting with constructability reviews during design and further on providing the full array of construction support and administration services that the project requires, including the pre-qualification and selection of the general contractor that will be eventually hired to build this facility. We expect to perform these tasks somewhere around the middle of next year in order to start construction on the first part of 2023. As you can see in this, can you go back to the slide? Sorry, Clarence. We have over 40 years of public sector experience. We have built 50 plus aquatic recreation and community centers and pools. And we have currently similar and current local area aquatics experience, and we provide a full array of program management services. We will be working hand in hand with Clarence and his team of architects in the creation of the design of this facility. We will work on the key estimates, the milestones, to maintain control of the budget from its inception. We'll create several iterations of the budget as the project is being designed. And we will continue our value engineering efforts throughout to provide a facility at the end that is financially responsible for the city. Next one, Clarence. Given the amount of projects that we have developed throughout the past 40 years, we have developed high sensitivity and awareness to the neighborhoods. This is a very high profile project, and so far we have identified a few challenges that we will be encountering. We will provide constant communication with stakeholders, the neighbors, and the community overall by providing monthly updates, website updates. We'll provide, obviously, council tours as required by the city. And we will be creating a project hotline that can be accessed by literally anyone in the community that will convey to us directly on an hourly basis or a minute by minute basis what the concerns are. And it could be that somebody might be annoyed by traffic jams or contractors in the way, noise of construction, or any kind of objections that they might have. And we will demonstrate through these efforts that the city really cares about the construction of this facility. And we will do so throughout its duration. Next one. As you heard already, and many of you have already participated in the first round of meetings and stakeholder meetings and the staff focus groups, as it occurred on the workshops on Tuesday, we will work hand in hand with ELS and creating all of this interactivity and listening to the community to integrate all of the wishes and desires and dreams that they would like to get into that. And within that, obviously creating, I repeat again, a fiscally responsible budget to build this facility. Next one. Amongst the many things that we have heard already from its inception, it has been the desire to create a facility that hopefully will be able to reach net zero energy and as well as net zero carbon, which are all very lofty goals. And we will work hand in hand with, again, with ALS to reach the desired LEED Silver certification. And along with this, we will work in providing in-depth feasibility and cost-benefit analysis for the NCE or NCZ to determine if these goals are indeed achievable from the early stages of design. And this will include the possibility of an all-electric pool heating system, along with combinations of solar, thermal, photovoltaics, as well as hybrid systems that will deliver a facility that can maintain low operational costs throughout the life of the facility. As mentioned before, we have local experience. We have the pleasure also to be working along with ELS on the Aquatic Center for the City of Mountain View. And there is some similarities to the Piedmont project, which we have in size, the main building, bathhouse, and it's a very tight site and similar considerations. Another project that I'm working on managing is another aquatic center for the city of San Bruno. This one is about 3 times larger than the one at the city of Piedmont. It has exterior swimming pool, interior swimming pools, and a large variety of spaces. It's also about 22 acres inside. But the relevancy to your project is that we have similar conditions to creating a very sound, robust retaining wall and very challenging site conditions that we haven't encountered there. So the site-specific considerations that so far we have been able to identify and are to maintain access at all times to the tennis courts. And as you all know, there's a very significant grade differential between the swimming pool area and the tennis courts, which will require the retaining wall that I mentioned. And during the demolition of the existing facility, we will be taking care in a very careful process of the removal and disposal of the hazardous materials that exist in the current facility. We are also very cognizant and aware of the significant traffic considerations that will be encountered because these are very narrow streets and there's current and constant flow of traffic, and not to mention the high school across the street at different hours. So we're very sensitive to that, and we are ready to address all of the program requirements that will be required to do that. As mentioned earlier, we were hired back in the month of May, and we are now at a point where ELS has been engaged, and we will be turning them loose to start the actual design of the facility sometime in middle December. And Clarence will talk about the rest of the schedule as we develop. So this concludes my portion of the presentation. Thank you.
Clarence, are you?
There we go.
All right.
All right, we'll try that again. So Madam Mayor, Laurel, League of Women Voters, thank you again for the opportunity to present. Second everything that Sara and George have mentioned before us. Just a teeny bit about ELS and me. Mayor King heaped on way too much singular praise for me. There's a little army that's behind this stuff, and we have an amazing team of folks, and you'll get to meet all of them if you haven't, but all of us at ELS are pretty jazzed about getting the opportunity to work with the city of Piedmont on this, what is going to be an amazing place once it's all done. A little bit about ELS. We are among the top 50 firms in the United States for sustainability in business. We're really proud of that. It's a ranking by Architect Magazine. We're also ranked among the top 300 firms in North America by Architectural Record. And we've won our fair share of collection of AIA awards. And anyway, it's I think we're lucky we get to brag about this stuff, but the reason we get to brag about it is we have incredible clients like the city of Piedmont, and we get to work on wonderful projects. And it really takes a great project and a great client to pull it all together. And so we're I think we're on the path to another one. I think this is going to be a wonderful project once we're all done. One other thing to share, we are signatory to the Architecture 2030 Challenge, which is also co-sponsored by the AIA, which is essentially saying that, you know, today, just about everything we've designed today, 70% of that is fossil fuel energy, or we're reducing our fossil fuel energy use by 70%. And we're looking to move to carbon neutral in all of our buildings that we design by 2030. So we are trying to do everything we can do as well. We know that the city of Piedmont and others in Piedmont are aiming for the same type of goals. And so that's a great context to work within. And we're looking forward to participating in that area too. This is just a collection of sort of some of the swimming stuff we're around. We've been lucky enough to work on probably the top 3 program venues this side of the Rockies in SC, Cal, and Stanford. And we've done a lot of work with USA Swimming and everything else that's connected with swimming. So we've been around it for a long time, and something we really enjoy. Just quickly, here's a quick shot of Stanford. This was built just in time for the athletes to train for the 2000 games in Australia. And then later on at USC, this was in 2014, this opened up to host the US Olympic Paralympic Games. And it was a fun facility. Actually, this one's kind of interesting in that the pool was there, but we built everything around it and then renovated the pool. And then for the fastest water in the world, this is where you come. This is a great little pool in downtown Berkeley. And we finished this in 2016. And it's a combination 50-meter pool with a dive tower at the end. It's a lot of fun. But the space that we're really involved in, probably most of the time, is our projects just like Piedmont. So we've worked with a number of municipalities. We've touched all 9 Bay Area counties, and we're starting to make a lot of inroads in Southern California as well. And here's some of the work. This is for the city of Santa Clara. This is the International Swim Center. This project here just won entitlements, and they're now looking for money. The biggest and probably most challenging part of any project. This just opened up. This is San Mateo Community College. This is Cañada College. So if you're driving down 280 and you look up at around Redwood City area, you might see it. 2 big pools and a lot of fun indoor recreation activities. This is for the city of Elk Grove. Not only does it have a lot of water, but we think it has a really cool wall that lights up at night and adds a little sparkle. There's a fun water feature out front at the entry, so you get wet before you actually go in to get wet. And the other thing we like about this, it's relatively flat out there and it's incredibly hot. And so those 2 things we sort of use to our advantage. We create a big trellis structure that gives folks a place to hide from the sun. And at the same time, we sunk the 50-meter pool venue so that the terraces that go down sort of serve as a nice seating and lounging area, and sort of built-in bleachers. So you don't have these aluminum bleachers scattered about the deck. This is nearby. This is the city of Oakland. This is an indoor fun water pool, as well as some multi-purpose rooms on the 2nd level. I think our building is going to have some spaces like this as well. This project here started in 1990. We worked 11 years with Councilmember Larry Reed, and finally, to his credit, we were able to get it designed and done. Pretty exciting. And this is over in the North Bay. This is for the College of Marin. This is a real interesting project. It's a student recreation center that doubles as a community wellness center. And it has 3 pools. The 3rd pool in this photo isn't quite filled with water yet. That's the dive tank. But if you were to stand on one end and walk to the other end, you will cover a football field. So it's a lot of water. Here's another image. It's a beautiful setting, these green hills and all this crisp blue water against that. Looks really stunning. And this is for the city of Redwood City, another aquatic center. Phase 1 of this project, which is a senior center, has just started. We're about 2 years away from completing that project, and then this one here will start up. So the Redwood City project is pretty big. The senior center is about 60 million, and this piece here is another 30 million. And finally, this is a project George shared. This is for Mountain View. And again, we have this in here because it's very similar in program to what we're being asked to design for the city of Piedmont. The building is about 10,000 square feet. It has minimal amounts of program. There's a little birthday party room in it, all the necessary locker rooms, pool equipment, reception, and those kinds of things. And the building, in this case, kind of acts as a portal. You sort of enter one side, and then on the back side of the building, you enter the pool environment. There are 2 pools, again, very similar in size and scope to the Piedmont Master Plan of 2016. It has a 25 meter by 25 yard, and then a fun water rec pool of about 4,000 square feet. Another nighttime shot. Okay, so let me what I want to go through right now is kind of where we are in our process. And you've probably seen a fair amount of activity in the news and around town. The first thing, if you haven't, we'd love for you to go to piedmontcommunitypool.eventbrite.com and sign up for both or one of the remaining 2 workshops. We wanted to have we've had a pretty robust campaign in getting the information out about how to sign up for those events. If you go to Eventbrite, you can even download the app, and we're constantly updating this site with information about the project as it goes through its early design stages. Once you get to the Eventbrite site, you'll have an option to, again, sign up for any one of these workshops. I hope you sign up for all of them. More the merrier at these things. And probably around town, you've seen some signs or boards or banners that look something like this. So all of that information is out there right now as well. And hopefully you've received a letter in the mail. The city and ELS put together a welcome letter. And again, we were outlining the process. So there's been no shortage of attempts to get news out about this workshop series. So we're again, hoping for a robust attendance as we go through the process. And this is actually the result of the first series. So we took workshop number 1, we called it our gallery walk, and we split it into 2 sessions. That last Tuesday. We had 2 sessions because there was a school event. I believe it was the speaker series was that same evening. So we wanted to try and capture everybody. And the afternoon session was well attended. We had somewhere between 60 and 70 during the daytime. And then the crowd was lighter following that evening. We probably had, I think at its high mark, we were at about 30. So again, pretty good collection of folks. I think a lot of people probably have a pretty good sense of what the master plan is. And again, we're building from that point. But this was a chance to essentially walk around a big room and look at a set of boards. We had 8 panels set up, and we had ELSers and various consultants staged at each one of the boards. And the hope was that we were there to answer lots of questions and add clarification to the process. But we had boards that focused on the green and LEED efforts that we see ahead of us, and our goal to essentially eliminate the use of fossil fuels in the final design was a big part of the discussion. We're also going to be aiming towards a well building certification. So while LEED looks at making the building and the construction process planet friendly, WELL tends to focus on us as humans in the building and making it safe and healthy for us. So sort of 2 levels of approach here through the design. And then we had, of course, aquatic stuff, and our 5-time gold medalist, Dana Vollmer Grant, was at this board, and I hope you got to meet her. If you haven't, she'll be at the others. But she knows a thing or two about swimming. She's also one of our WELL certified professionals and was helping out at the yellow board previous. So this was the board that focused on serious swimming, I'll call it, the flat water or the rectangular pool. I think the big message here is that we're going to get as many lanes in there as we can. And we're looking at 10 and 10 plus, somewhere around that area. And then there's the fun water pool. And so this is the pool that's warmer. It has a 0 beach entry maybe. It probably has a couple of lanes for lap swimming as well. And both of these pools were products of the 2016 master plan. So I think those are pretty well set. I think what we're looking to do is fine tune them a bit, but I think there was a lot of good work done in 2016, and we're going to use that. I think it's where it puts us a little ahead of the game. The building itself right now, we know is going to be 2 levels, and we're zeroing in on sort of what will be in the building and how it will be used and how we'll operate it. But that'll start to gel as we approach this next series of workshops. And then the site. And probably the biggest questions about the site right now are what happens to that area, which is currently used as an outdoor daycare space. So it's bordered by a residence to the north and the rec building to the south. And we've been calling it the West Park. So, what happens to that in this process? And we'll be examining that as well, and how to connect that part of the property to the balance of the pool area. And then finally, we had board 8, just in case we missed anything. And apparently we missed a lot because we had a lot of Post-its that were left behind. And those were all collected. We're still sorting through those and trying to put them in sort of buckets of like comments and just organize them a bit, but it was really helpful. We got a lot of great feedback through that process, and we'll continue to have these boards up at all of the workshops, so you can continue to add thoughts if you don't get your thought out there on the table, or maybe you're a little shy and you'd rather put it on a Post-it, you'll be able to do that. So the next workshop coming up, number 2, is on November 16th, and it will look something like this. This is our scene at Redwood City a few years ago. But what we'll do here is we're going to come in and present 2 to 3 ideas. And those ideas will then be critiqued and vetted and sketched over by teams at probably 10 or so tables of 10 or maybe 12. And the idea is to, again, try to gather, what are the goods and the bads of each of these ideas? Does one idea sort of float to the top? Is it going to be a hybrid of ideas? But we'll give you sort of a base to kind of work from, and then we'll be looking to the community to help enrich any one or all 3 of those ideas. At the end of that, our hope is to come to a consensus on a direction, so that when we get to workshop number 3 on December 14th, we have a preferred plan that we're presenting. And we'll come in and we'll sort of give a more detailed design presentation of this preferred idea. And once again, we'll break out into teams and we'll have everybody critique that idea in smaller format groups. And then each of those groups will have a captain who will present their findings to the entire group. So both evenings will be pretty robust, and there's a lot to cover. So again, I hope we get great attendance and lots of action around that. This kind of leads us to our schedule and sort of what's ahead. So far, the top 3 items, we had our initial pool advisory committee meeting. We had that on October 19th. We had the first workshop, that was last Tuesday, and in less than 2 weeks, we'll have workshop 2. So what remains is really in this box, and after workshop 2, we'll go back to the Pool Advisory Committee. I'll refer to them as PAC. We'll go back to the PAC, share what our findings were, compare those notes to theirs, and we'll have public comments. And then we'll head on to the Planning Commission and we'll give them an update. And then following that, we head into workshop 3, again, mid-December. And that's where we're going to present the preferred direction or the preferred concept. And then we'll go back to the PAC again, share what we learned sort of during that process, go back and do about 4 weeks worth of work. And then we'll come back to the PAC one more time to share our refinements. And if we need another meeting with the PAC, we have that worked into the schedule as well. And then following that, we head on to the Planning Commission one more time. We're all working towards that purple line there. That's a presentation to Mayor King and her council. And what we'll be doing at that night is, assuming all has gone pretty well up to that point, we'll be asking for an approval of the consensus plan, the concept design, and for us to advance the design into the technical document stage. And it will take us about 9 months from that point to put together a set of construction documents. And we'll finish that up in Q4 of 2022. So sometime between probably around November, December-ish. And then we'll have a bid set, and we'll be ready to put the project out to bid and start construction in the Q1 of 2023. And then we all get to go swimming sometime in the summer of 2024. So that's the layout. There's a lot of work ahead, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much. So I want to remind everyone, we are going to be spending the last half hour of our program taking questions. So if you have any questions, please post them either in the chat on Zoom or in the comments in the YouTube live stream. And I'll get through as many of them as I can. I've already gotten a number of questions from people ahead of time who filled out our survey to submit questions in advance. So thank you again for the excellent information. I know a lot of my questions have been answered already. So I'm going to start. We have a lot of questions about sort of specifics of the environmental impacts and green stuff, and I'm going to save those a little bit, and I'm going to do some more general questions first. So maybe this is for Sara, I'm not sure. As far as the bond oversight goes, is there a committee already established for the bond oversight? If not, when will that be established, and how will members be selected? And how is the city planning to ensure that the budget is well managed?
Sorry, had a hard time finding my mute button there. So yeah, the Bond Oversight Committee has been established and approved by the City Council, but not yet seated. So we will be soliciting applications for that very soon. We'll be pushing those out as soon as end of this week. And then we'll have an application period similar to our other commissions and committees. So similar to how the council seated the pool advisory committee. So the council will interview applicants and seat that committee before the end of the year is the intention. So there's a little bit of scheduling that has to happen to get all the council people and interviewees on the same evening. But that process is in motion. Which should then be seated right around the same time that the bonds are issued. And then that committee has responsibility to make sure that we are spending the bond proceeds the way they were intended, or the way the voters voted for them to be spent. So they have a very important role to make sure we spend that money appropriately. Not sure I got your whole question. Feel free to.
I think you covered it.
Okay.
I think you did. Thank you.
Yeah.
So the feasibility analysis that was called for in the RFQ, when will that be conducted, and will net zero energy or net zero carbon scenarios be considered as part of that feasibility analysis?
I'll go ahead and take a stab at that one. So again, the process that we're in right now, which will take us up through mid-December, we're establishing a concept, and then hopefully we'll take that concept to council, and we'll get approval for that. That will then launch sort of the first layer of pretty serious technical investigation. And it'll probably be during the schematic design phase, which is that first phase, where we'll get into that feasibility analysis.
Thank you. So a lot of the other projects that were shown in your presentation of other pools that are either already constructed or are in the works are very modern architecture. Are you planning to make an effort to have the architecture match the surrounding buildings in the area?
Oh, that's a great question. So it's interesting. You know, if you look at our firm's portfolio, we don't have a distinctive style. I think our architecture is pretty contextual. It's pretty site responsive. In fact, most folks won't come to us for a signature building. They'll go to some other architects who you can tell right away, wow, that must be a so-and-so building. And ELS isn't like that. Our portfolio is pretty varied. I think all of our work is pretty good. And one of the things that we see here is right now, the school has added 2 gigantic buildings right across the street. They're enormous. And, you know, it's, they're a big wall that really doesn't really kind of engage the community very much, at least in my opinion. And then we have this little swim center, and then we have all these homes to the north and to the west. And again, a little bit of civic flavor starts to get into the mix to the east. And one of the things we've been thinking about is how this new building wants to emerge from the landscape more. And it's not going to be a big showy building. I think it wants to be a pretty quiet building. And it's really more about how we can engage, I think, the tennis courts and the rec center and the little park and make all of that feel like a one thing. So it's not just a building and it's not just a full center, but it's really a new wellness hub for the community. And I think that's our big task. So the architecture of the building is going to be pretty secondary, I think, at the end of the day. It's going to feel like it just fits nicely. And the pools are going to kind of dominate. I mean, those are big areas. And so one of the things I know we won't do, and it feels odd. You know, we have a lot of beautiful historic homes in Piedmont, and they're historic because they're historic. You can't do historic. So I think what we want to do is we want to do appropriate and what fits right and what is site responsive. And there are going to be a number of things that will help shape and form this building. One of them will be just having enough space to put or to maximize the PVs, the photovoltaic panels that we need to electrify the project. And that requires right off the bat a pretty big flat roof area. So right away, we're thinking that the roof has probably got to be flat. It won't be a gabled roof. It won't be a mansard roof. I mean, it won't be a lot of those things just because we can't fill it with PVs. So there are going to be a lot of things that will influence the shape, the form, the size, the look. But at the end of the day, our hope is that the building is relatively quiet and sort of grows from the landscape. We have this enormous elevation change too, just from the tennis court level down to what is pool deck level. And how you handle that change is, I think that's a pretty big challenge right there. And it won't be about architecture. It's going to be about how the landscape blends from one area to the next. So I think this is more about a landscape project than it is an architecture project. Sorry.
Quite all right. So you mentioned that you expected there would be 10 lanes in the pool. Is there a possibility there would be fewer than 10 lanes?
I don't think so. There's a possibility that there might be 1 or 2 more though.
Okay. that answers my follow-up question, which was for regional events, 12 lanes is necessary, and is there a possibility we could get that high? Sounds like yes, it's possible.
Yes, I think that is possible.
All right, those were the main non-environmental related questions that I have so far. Of course, people may still ask questions in the chat, but I want to start now digging in a little bit to the environmental side of things. So you mentioned that your firm is committed to the goal of architecture that is zero carbon by 2030. Piedmont also has a climate action plan that has a goal of the city government being 100% of its electricity from renewable sources by 2050, and then other carbon reducing goals for the community with 2030 and 2050 goals. So do you expect that just very broad question to start, do you expect that the energy source for heating the pool's water will be net zero carbon by 2050?
So I don't know. I mean, I hope so. Better than that, though, I think whatever the heating source is that we figure it out by the time the pool is built. So let's say well in advance of that. And here's why. It's clear that even our big energy source or energy utility, PG&E, they're moving in that direction too. They too want to eliminate the use of fossil fuels. If we went ahead and designed today, and this will be part of the analysis we do in schematic design, but if we decided to today go, let's just go all gas for now, we can change it out later. The cost for changing your equipment out down the road is significantly expensive. And so we're going to want to measure those costs against maybe the cost of slightly higher utilities today, against what gas futures might be, and as well as against the cost of changing out all of this big gas equipment for electrical equipment. So my hope is that we're not making that decision in 2050, but that we're making that much sooner. That would be the prudent thing to do.
And are in that consideration for what you want to initially design the pool, are you considering alternative methods for heating the water? For example, solar pool heaters, geothermal systems, and systems like evacuated solar tubes in conjunction with heat pumps powered by solar photovoltaics. And I don't know if I pronounced that correctly.
So actually all of the above, with the exception of geothermal right now, so far has been somewhat looked at. And it's something that we have used on other projects. Geothermal is a little different. And again, we don't know a whole lot about the geology here just yet. One of the things we do know is that we're on a lot of rocks. So any kind of drilling for geothermal tubes and that sort of thing will likely be pretty expensive. But we actually had quite an elaborate geothermal system for the Santa Clara project that I showed you. Something that we designed. It hasn't been built yet, but that was pretty advanced. So we'll look at that, but we're going to look at, again, the other technologies that you listed. Those are all in the hunt and are going to prove to be probably a pretty good array of technologies to select from.
Can you speak a little bit about the cost of those different technologies and how that might compare to the cost of using electricity, normally generated electricity or gas?
Let's see. Well, the one thing we do know today is that gas rates are climbing, and pretty soon will, if not already, will outpace the cost of electricity. So anything that we can produce on site with our own infrastructure is clearly better, right? We could harness the sun's power on our own. That would be terrific. But one of the issues that we're going to run into, if we just look at our site alone, there's only so much area there. And we know already that we won't have enough roof area to generate all the electricity we need to power the equipment that will heat those pools. Even when we use a combination of solar thermal panels, we still won't have enough roof area. So one of the things we'll probably end up looking at will be access to clean energy through the clean grid. And we may end up supplementing our energy through that now. So no gas, but we'll be buying from a clean grid. That's exactly what we're doing in Mountain View. Again, Mountain View has relatively a small roof area. They have to make up the power need through the clean energy grid. They did look at putting, and you probably have all seen these, you drive by any community college district these days, and there are these covers over the parking areas, and those are packed with photovoltaic panels. And so they have lots of space, lots of area. And those structures are pretty expensive. I mean, you've got a lot of concrete and steel. Talk about your carbon output, just building those things and using all of that. So, you know, there's an interesting sort of challenge here. We could build a bunch of infrastructure, maybe over the tennis courts or somewhere, but, you know, it's going to get expensive. The other thing we want to look at too are our neighbors. The city has some buildings to the east. There may be enough roof space there that we could start to spread out some PVs there and then conduit the power back over to the pool. Maybe there's a partnering agreement with the school. There's a lot of new flat area there as well. But again, we're going to look at all of that and see what we can do to get the energy we need to run the center.
And I assume that that includes not just heating the pool, which is obviously a big suck of energy, but also powering any structures and providing hot water for showers in those structures and other things like that.
Yeah, I mean, actually, for those of you who are baseball fans, electrifying the building, that's a fastball down the middle. That's really easy. Heating those pools, though, that's the big challenge. And I think there are a lot of people on the phone or on the meeting who know that. It takes a lot of power to keep those pools at the big rectangular pool that wants to be somewhere between 78 and 80 degrees. And the smaller pool, which is not really that small, that wants to stay at 85 degrees. So it's a big challenge. And the one thing that we're going to have to work with the city on, and the city has to sort of decide this, is how are we going to sort of schedule the use of the fun water pool? Typically, the big rectangle pool is open year round. And we see municipalities typically close down the fun water pool certain months out of the year. So if that pool stays open year round, we have to figure out what that means in terms of energy demand too.
And have you also considered things that might help reduce the lowering of the temperature of the water, like retractable pool covers, pool enclosures, and high R value insulation for the pools and any pipes that are supplying water to the pools?
So the high R value insulation will be applied in heavy doses to the building and to any utilities that are exposed. That'll happen. That's just part of code. We're actually held to a pretty high standard when it comes to that. The pool covers is a no-brainer. You always want to do that. If somebody knows of automated retractable pool covers, I'm all ears. We get asked that question all the time. And, unless you have a $20 million mansion and, 3 lap lanes of your own inside your house, They don't exist. We just have not seen anything yet. So generally, every night, those have to come out and cover the pool. And it's real important that that be done. It saves on water, loss of due to evaporation. It saves on chemicals for the same thing, and it retains the water temperature. So they're really important. You asked another question. You had a third.
Pool enclosures.
Oh, pool enclosure. Yeah. And I talked with some folks at our first workshop about that. So right now, let's say you have the big rectangular pool, you probably get for about $2.5 million or so, somewhere like that. That's kind of the cost of that pool. And if you were to put a cover over that, and then we turned it into what we would call a natatorium, you basically take the square footage of that pool, which is roughly 6,000 square feet plus the deck is another 6,000 square feet, 12,000 square feet, multiply that by a factor of 1,000, and that's what it takes to cover that pool. So we're looking at another $12 million to do that. Natatoria in the Bay Area and actually throughout California are pretty rare. There aren't a lot of them, and one, we're lucky to have this great weather, and two, they're just incredibly expensive. And I'll throw in one other factor. There are also gigantic petri dishes. These things.
There's one in Richmond, isn't there?
The Richmond Plunge.
Yeah.
There's that. I mean, we did one in Oakland too, the East Oakland Center, and we did Balboa Pool. Balboa Pool was built in the 50s, and we've done the best we could, but boy, the air quality in those things, you have to really be careful. They take elaborate mechanical systems to condition the air and to make it safe. So if if you go on the other side of the Rockies, you run into natatoria all the time. That's just what you have to do. This side of the Rockies, though, we're pretty lucky. We get to swim outdoors, and that's kind of what everybody does. So
I approve of the outdoor swimming personally, so I'm glad glad to hear that. Can you say that the pool will be net zero carbon, even if that requires dialing back other design considerations and nice to haves that we would like within the pool and the entire aquatic facility?
no, I can't. I wish I could. That's a pretty big ask. The biggest sort of challenge in that statement is, are you asking if the pool is going to be heated without gas, right? And I think that's the first question you have to ask. And then if we're really net zero, I mean, are you asking me about the construction process? So many of the components and the processes involved in building materials are enormous carbon generators. One of the things we're going to look at is the possibility of using mass timber. We're doing a mass timber project right now for the city of Millbrae. So that has the benefit of embodied carbon. And we'll try and do sort of implement ideas like that, along with everything else we're trying to keep the carbon footprint as small as we can. That I can say. So,
when you are doing your 3 designs that you're going to present on the 14th, I think it is, the mid-November workshop, will you be calculating, what's that?
On the 16th.
16th, okay. It's the December one is maybe the 14th.
Yes.
Okay. So when you are presenting the 3 designs for that workshop, are you going to calculate the carbon footprint of the 3 designs and have that be part of the conversation for the people who are joining that workshop?
No, it's still too early. Again, we're trying to just make sure we know where everything lands, and kind of, there's a lot of big issues that we've got to address including the whole sort of planet-friendly set of issues. Those are just as important as all the others, but we've got to all agree on the basic plan so that we could then start to really do a detailed analysis. And, you know, we could do something pretty conceptual right now, but it's not going to tell us a whole lot at this point. So we need to get to schematic design, have everybody kind of agree, yeah, you've met the program. It looks like we have the structural issues set. We know where our power is coming from. Now let's see how green we can make this thing. And of course, along the way, we're thinking of lots of passive design ideas, passive green design ideas that will help us get there and make our job easier once we start this technical analysis. But we won't have that level of detail yet for any of the meetings during the workshops.
To reduce the chance of future water leaks from the pool, are you considering alternatives to concrete, things like fiberglass or other materials? I don't know what the standard construction is.
So I only know of three different types of pool construction that we've worked with. Some folks have probably heard of the Murtha pools or stainless steel panel technology. That's one version. That's a great product, but in California, it's a little difficult to use and difficult on sort of a cost analysis. With the Murtha pool, again, it's almost, this is going to sound bad, but it's almost like buying a pool from IKEA. You get a box of parts that are shipped out to the site, and it's a panelized system, and it's a great product. It's a panelized system that goes into the ground and is supported by a steel frame system that holds up the walls. But before you put this thing into the ground, you have to dig an oversized hole and have a concrete retaining wall that's retaining all that soil. So essentially, you build a concrete pool, and then you put this thing inside, and then you build that pool. So you increase your costs significantly by doing that. Now, there are some maintenance reasons for doing that, and those are all good. But when we start to compare the cost of that to an in-ground concrete pool, there's a big difference. And if we're looking at that versus getting greener technology, one of those is going to give. And so we have to figure that out. The other is a fiberglass shell. And we haven't done those in large commercial or municipal pools. I've seen them used in residential applications, but I've never used one commercially. So I think where we are right now is we're probably going to lean towards an in-ground concrete pool. We've done a lot of pools, and we haven't had any issues with leaking. In fact, we have come into pool projects that have had those issues. And with our pool consultant, Aquatic Design Group, we found ways to repair those pools. But I can't recall any issues that we've had with our system. And it's not just concrete, there's a plaster coating. There's a bunch of other layers that go into this. So I think it's a pretty good system.
If people are wanting to be more engaged in the design process and stay involved with the decisions that are being made both on the design side and the energy side, what's the best way for them to do that? Is it attending the committee meetings, coming to your workshops? What are the avenues for people who really are concerned about it and want to continue to be engaged until the contract is signed and that's it, it's a done deal?
I don't know if it's fair to ask Steve Rowland to join in on this answer, but certainly from our side, we hope you attend the meetings and the workshop series, and that'll be a great place. But Steve's Pool Advisory Committee is set up to help in that regard.
Yeah, I'll just jump in and echo that, Clarence, and the slide, I think Clarence's last slide that laid out all the different opportunities for the public to be involved in this process. There's a lot of them, but if I had to choose one, and like Clarence said, I hope you come to all of them. I think the Pool Advisory Committee meetings are really meant to be the place to ask hard questions and have in-depth discussions. So if you had to choose one, I would probably choose those. And I think we're also going to be trying to push out some electronic opportunities to survey and gather information similar to the Tuesday meetings of this week and the design boards that Clarence showed in the presentation. So keep your eye out for those in our weekly e-newsletters from the city. There'll be a pretty easy way to chime in on all 8 of those sort of subject areas. And we hope to hear from everybody.
Great. And I hope you're okay with us including that in our newsletters that go out twice a month.
Absolutely.
I know our members would be interested in that. So we're almost out of time. I had one additional question about accessibility, and will you be taking accessibility into account in designing the pool and ways for community members who have limited mobility to easily get in and out of the lap swim facility?
So a resounding and very loud yes. That's kind of a basic. In fact, there is no difference in making sure that no matter what your ability is, that you have full access to the entire facility. And that goes for all of the water areas, all of the landscaped areas, all of the building areas. The Americans with Disabilities Act guarantees that for everybody. And as designers, we have to make sure we accommodate everybody. And especially when you have a new project, I mean, everything we design is designed with that in mind. So yes.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. We are almost out of time, so I'm just going to say a few closing things. I really appreciate all of the thoughtful questions and the information that you provided to us. I am personally really looking forward to seeing the project unfold and to the summer of 2024. It's going to be very exciting. I want to reiterate that there are the upcoming workshops, and certainly everybody who came here today, if you want to stay involved, the League highly recommends any community involvement that you have the time for. And we have those events on our event calendar, if that will help you find them. I know the city has them on their website as well. So there was just a question, is the public allowed to attend the Pool Advisory Committee meetings? And I think they're open to the public just the way a city council meeting is, correct?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So we will send a recap of this event with links to those upcoming events in it so that you will have access to them. I will post them in the description on the recording of the YouTube channel for people who are watching after the fact. If you are watching on YouTube, please consider subscribing to our channel and also joining our mail list on LWVPiedmont.org so you can help us in our efforts to help educate voters on important issues. And this officially ends our program. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you.